Hello and welcome to the Mainframes, where we take a dive into the lives of artists and creatives working out of Mainframe Studios. I'm here today with photographer Dylan Huey. Thanks for being with us today, Dylan.
My pleasure.
So let's dive right into it. You've recently been involved with Above and Beyond Cancer. The Drake Press just released a very inspiring book featuring your photography. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and how you got involved with it?
Sure. So kind of a big question, I guess, both of those parts, but the Drake Community Press I'm not quite sure how long they've been doing this, but I think this is their third or fourth book where they partner with a local nonprofit or group to help tell their story via a publication. Every time they've done it, they've kind of shot, a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger. And so about 2 years ago now, they picked Above and Beyond Cancer, ABC. And I was already involved, with Above and Beyond, and have been for about the last 8 to 10 years, just going on journeys with them and helping document for their survivors and for their own, for their own use. So that's kind of how that got started.
And so you said you've been involved for 8 to 10 years. How did you get started doing that?
Sure. So I knew their first executive director, and when they were going to do RAM, which is Race Across America, it's a bike race that goes all the way across the United States. They were going to put a team together, and they kind of decided we wanted to have it documented. So he asked me if I'd be willing to just kind of go along. We didn't really have any specific plan. So that was the first instance of getting involved. It was a lot of fun. The people were really inspiring. Stories were really great. And we, created a short documentary along with taking photos. Kind of ever since then, I've just kind of hung on tight and tried to keep helping them with, the different things that they've done. And the first couple journeys I went on, I raised my own funds or paid to go on my own because I just really liked what they were doing and wanted to kind of help share that story. So over the years, it's been able to be, we've been able to kind of share expenses better and that type of stuff. So it's been great. And, I'd kind of always hoped that we'd be able to do a larger project like this. So that was also very good.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me about a couple of the journeys you've taken specifically. What are some places you've gone, some really memorable moments?
Above and Beyond does a lot of programming, which is great, and they do a lot of local programming as well. But one of the things that they're kind of known for is about every year they do a big journey, something kind of to help inspire and also visit their sort of partners that they've developed over the years abroad, which is also great. So I've been out to Nepal 3 times. I've been to Mount Kilimanjaro with them. We've been to Tibet. The journeys are always amazing. I really love the photo work, but I think what makes it even better is kind of seeing them help the people, kind of where they go. So we always visit local hospitals and work with patients there who are in the cancer wards. We visit the children's wards and help, with toys, but also with blankets and toothbrushes and things that they might not have. So, when that was added to the journeys, maybe about 3 or 4 journeys ago, the photography and the emotion that you kind of get from that is amazing and so inspiring. So I would, as far as the question of kind of what experiences or what's inspired me from them, it's really the people. The places are great, but the people interacting with each other and then interacting with the locals is always the most amazing part of journeys.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a very emotional, very spiritual experience. How have you seen the journeys impacting some of the cancer survivors, or just the impact on their lives?
Sure. So, and that's another great piece that Above and Beyond does, and it was kind of built with this partnership with Drake, is before the Drake Community Press got involved, a professor out of Drake, Yasmina, she works with the survivors during and after on projects that they write about. So They kind of journal on the journeys, and she helps teach them how to journal kind of before they go. You know, not everyone's a writer, and I'm certainly not a writer. So, you know, helps them learn how to share their thoughts on paper in a way that's, you know, understandable, and kind of dig deeper into what they're seeing, what they're feeling. So I think that's a big part that allows them to learn and grow, is how Above Me also works on letting them kind of expound on what they're, you know, doing there, and kind of fully, you know, bring that into themselves. But I also think a lot of them are just open to learning and growing because of the experience of having cancer. They're primed to kind of find the joy in suffering. And that's a big part of Above and Beyond, is, you know, one thing Dr. Deming will always promise is you will suffer on these journeys. So, and we all do in a lot of different ways. So, but you always come back stronger, you know, when you've had a chance to kind of, you know, test your own limits, which is what the journeys do, and what, you know, cancer has already done for, you know, for most of the people on them.
Absolutely. So in terms of sort of your role on these journeys of being a photographer, how do you think that kind of being behind the camera impacts the way that you see all these things?
You know, being behind the camera is interesting because I think you have to kind of use it as a little bit of a wall between what's going on around you, especially when you're doing that type of photography, which can have a lot of emotion involved in it. So I have to be able to concentrate on getting the images and getting the interactions between other people, and kind of separate myself from it a little bit. But at the same time, you know, not so much that I'm not experiencing it to kind of see what's happening, you know. So it can be very emotional at times, and there are certainly times, particularly in the hospitals, that, you know, kind of I'm standing behind the camera with a little tear kind of coming down my eye because it's just either it's very heartwarming, or it's just also very sad. You know, obviously hospitals and, you know, out in Nepal and in certain parts of Africa don't leave you with a lot of confidence that things can, you know, that these people might be able to survive what would be very survivable, you know, in the US. So, but it's a great experience, and I think it's taught me a lot, you know, over the years of doing this.
What are a few of maybe your favorite photos that you've captured through these journeys, or ones that really stick out as being representative of how you felt in the moment?
Sure. One of them's behind me, actually, over my right shoulder. And that's an interesting one. So in Nepal, most of the people who pass of anything, it's not cancer related, but you know, most of the time they're burned on pyres. And this particular photo right here is a pyre, and the smoke coming up from the pyre kind of hangs in the air in what I consider to be kind of a beautiful way. So that, I've always loved that photo. And then some of the other ones, there's a young boy who it was one of the times he went to Nepal was right after the earthquake, or about a year after. So he'd had cancer in his femur, and in the earthquake it had then broken his femur, and that wasn't going to heal because of the cancer. So they had to do some surgery to try to take that out, and so they had to basically take out the femur, and they had done this kind of dramatic surgery where you take out the femur and you move the leg up and you actually twist it so that the foot points backwards, because that allows you to attach a prosthetic, and your ankle basically becomes your knee. And since the ankle naturally moves, but it moves the opposite direction of your knee, they twist it so it moves the same direction, you know, that your knee would. And so there's some photos with him interacting with the cancer survivors, which are very, you know, which are very moving. And then I guess the last one is one that I call Ghost. It's a boy who was looking at me through a window, and he's kind of become ghosted out because there's some reflections happening. And it was really funny. I was taking a picture of him, but I could only see the reflection. And again, one of those moments of looking through the lens and not kind of necessarily looking at everything at one given moment. and I crouched down to get a different angle on him, and he crouched down too. I didn't realize it, but he was actually looking right at me, and he was just mimicking what I was doing, which was really cute. But I think the photo is really interesting because of sort of the ghosting effect that happened. I think it speaks to the idea of, I don't know what happened to him. If he did have cancer, there's sadly not a great chance that his outcome was going to be good. So, I think it represents to me this idea of we don't know what happens to a lot of the people once we leave, and it can be, you hope everything goes well, but you really don't know. And it's kind of that dichotomy of being there and not being there.
So do you feel like your involvement on these journeys has affected your photography in general at all? Like, do you find yourself, even during shoots back home, using things that you might have picked up while you were away?
I certainly think, that it maybe just in certain ways, it gives me a different perspective than I might have otherwise had. I think in photography, we draw from hopefully many number of things, and everything that affects us in different ways makes us think about things in different ways. And I would say that I'm sure it's affected my photography, but I think more so it's just affected how I look at the world. Always trying to see the positive side, kind of striving to keep working at, your goals, because there's other people who have had more challenges than me and are doing much bigger things. And I just kind of, you keep working to try to be as tough or as successful, as they're being, which, a lot of the cancer survivors have had much larger challenges put in front of them and done amazingly well and done amazing things afterwards because of their inspiration through that. And I just try to draw on that same inspiration and help it take me somewhere too. So
you've been involved with Above and Beyond for a while, and now that the book is out, are you going to continue to be involved? Do you think you'll go on more journeys? What does the future look like for you?
Yeah, we had one scheduled. I think it was supposed to leave in a few days, actually, for Mount Kilimanjaro. So obviously that's not happening right now. But no, yeah, definitely. Still help out with their local stuff. I go to, events that I can and help out with just photos and kind of general video stuff in town. And then, definitely want to still keep helping on their larger journeys. So it's a great organization, and yeah, I don't see a reason to stop helping yet, at least.
And the book released in May. And so obviously you had a lot of events and things lined up around that, and coronavirus has affected a lot of that. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that are happening or that you meant to happen, and how current events have changed things for you?
Sure. I think most events have already happened. ABC and the Drake Community Press kind of tried to keep with their launches as best they could. So because of that, you can go buy the book now at their either website, Above and Beyond's, or the Drake Community Presses. And then I will have just a link to those on my website here shortly. And then the one thing that didn't happen was supposed to be a show at Mainframe for the first Friday events, which we'll reschedule sometime when we can get this all done. But we do plan on trying to do a gallery show still as soon as we're able. And in lieu of that, I am selling prints, which I would have done that night, but I am selling prints on my website as well. So certain things able to happen, certain things couldn't, but in the end, it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. So.
Yeah, that's good. I was worried about it just because so many people have been so strongly affected. And I know this is such a wonderful project that I was really hoping you guys were still able to do as much as you could.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone, I'm sure book sales aren't quite what they would have been, just, because it's harder when you're not in person. But I think the reaction has been nice. And I think, some people who have purchased it, it's a great thing to kind of read and get a different perspective on even just what's going on right now. It's, it's just kind of a different angle on illness and life perspectives and that type of thing. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about your work outside Above and Beyond. You have your own practice as well. So tell us a little bit about your experiences with photography. When did you get into it? Is it a lifelong journey?
When I don't know exactly how old I was, but when other kids were saving up for whatever random bike or thing, I was saving up for my first camera back at the age of 10, 12 or whatever. So I've always enjoyed photography. So kind of did that all through high school as hobbies and learned how to develop in a dark room and all that type of stuff, which nowadays I'm not sure people learn that type of stuff anymore, but I feel like I was one of the last groups who actually learned how to do all of that. But, and then kind of went to school for video, and I do both nowadays, but I kind of decided I wanted to bring photography back in. I think I enjoy it a bit more. But they're both still really fun, and they allow me to kind of have, do the fun projects and stuff. So yeah, but I started doing full-time photography work about 8 years ago. And just kind of kept going since then. And it's been, it's a continual learning process, but it's been a lot of fun. And I enjoy kind of working with everybody I get to work with. So.
Yeah. What types of clients do you generally work with? What's your practice really focus on?
Sure. I tend to work with businesses, and then on the publishing side, I do want to get kind of more into publishing, whether it's magazines or that type of work. But it does tend to be with businesses, headshots, marketing stuff, PR stuff. I don't really do weddings, that type of thing. So more power to the people who do. I just can't. But I used to do a few, and they were fun, but I just kind of prefer the marketing and that type of stuff. So yeah, and then I work on personal projects, which is what Above and Beyond started as, and then kind of coming up with my own shoots here and there every once in a while, and I usually post that stuff too. So yeah.
What are some of the projects that you've been working on recently? I'm sure things are a little bit different given coronavirus, but can you give us just like an insight into the day-to-day for you?
Sure. Yeah, the coronavirus has been quite different. It was slow. I tried to do some personal projects, and I have done a few, just kind of working with different lighting, trying to practice this or that. And then, stuff has started to pick back up. So some of my clients are coming back, as far as just, getting back into all of that world, just kind of the marketing world. But I mean, I would say for any photographer, I think a lot of people think we're behind the camera all the time, but sadly I'm in front of the computer more than I would like, editing and doing other things. But, I try to shoot at least once or twice a week, either just out and about or just set up a time in the studio, at Mainframe, and just come up with my own little thing. So, yeah.
Would you say, what's the balance between photography that you do for work and photography that you do for fun or just for personal?
Sure. I would say these days it's probably like 75% work, 25% personal. So, and it's a ratio that just changes depending on, what's going on and how much of this or that's actually happening. And it's certainly, I would guess most photographers find that, it's cyclical throughout the year too. There's kind of a busy time and a less busy time. So yeah, but I still like to make sure I'm trying to think of my own things to do here and there, so that kind of can feed the creative part of my brain.
Absolutely. Well, final question for you, Dylan. If anyone is interested in checking out your work with Above and Beyond or your private work, where should they go to find that?
Yep, HueyPhotography.com is probably the best place to start. I'm on Instagram. It's just Huey Photo on Instagram, and then on Facebook as well. I try to post to Instagram regularly. I do good and bad jobs at that, depending on what it is, but I do update my website, and the website will be the place to go, to buy prints or just to kind of keep up on other work that I'm doing. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Dylan. It was great to chat with you.
No problem. Thanks for doing this. It's great.
I heard your shining voice and I recall, we need art, let's make it known.